evening everybody. Time for another steam up. Don't do them very often these days, tend not to do the main mods anymore, that often anyway. But we do like a nice Meccano steam engine. The collection of 1929 Meccano steam engines is at 3 now. But recently, from Lee, I got this presumably 1914 Meccano Vertical Steam Engine. Not very powerful and missing its burner, but we'll come on to the burner in a bit. Why do I say presumably 1914? Well, it all points to a 1914, but there are so much, well, hearsay really. It has got the remains of the M Limited L Meccano transfer there. And I say I haven't got a burner for it, so I've made one up just for this test. We're going to be using gel fuel, which is this stuff I've had for years, never used it, so it may have lost some of its ump. There was two versions of this. This is the Mark II. This has got 4 little compartments within the tray. The first one only had 2. That run for 23 minutes. And I took some pictures showing you the flames of each type, the Mark I and this Mark II with the 4 compartments, after about 3 minutes of burn time. In short, the Mark II was a much better burn, but perhaps still not quite good enough, but we'll find that out. And I found it better to only half fill the burner. The Mark II lasted about 14 minutes, although the last 5 or so of the burn was, well, useless to be honest. As for the running of this steam engine, it's very like any of the other ones that are more towards the toy market, if you like. The May mods, or the more basic May mods. The Willescos, Bowmans, and probably another 40 or 50 different makes over the last 125, 150 years. It does have a decent piston with a decent valve, so it's not an oscillator, it's a reciprocating one. It has a nice sight glass, safety valve, a little lubricator for some oil, and a whistle. Right, so let's get on with it. I'm going to cheat, I'm going to put the kettle on. We're going to warm up the water first. Then we're going to oil, and then see if we can get her going. As you can probably expect, we've got no instructions, but they all are quite simple. The important thing is water. Put water in the boiler before you start. I'm going to take the safety valve out. Now, I've used O-rings as seals. I've never had much joy with modern fibre seals, fibre washers. They always seem to be a bit too dry and don't seal. Although I have recently, in fact today, found a box full of different sized brand new ones in a sealed box. So maybe we'll try them again, but for this purpose we've got a seal, new seal. You can find out about my fun with that on the Facebook page, the meccanosonic.com Facebook page. I've also got a seal, and this is very small so it may not focus, I'll have to put my hand behind it. You can probably see I've got an O-ring on the top. Now I've done a bit of research to see if this particular valve for this engine should have an O-ring, and I haven't been able to find out one way or the other. My only thinking is that just about every toy steam engine I've used, there's a simple safety valve like this with a small spring on, and it just goes up and down when the pressure gets to a certain point. And with this it's probably only going to be about 12 psi to guess, if it's still any good, that is. They've all got a seal on of some description. To my mind, without a seal, this basic valve is not going to seal enough. So we've put it on, and that's actually an O-ring off one of the little Maymod gas burners. My spare ones are those, and it's just about the right size. The bottom one was a bit of a pain to fit because it's a bit too small really, but should do the job. Right, we're making it easy. We've got a syringe, and we're going to fill it up just below the top of that water level sight glass so we can see it. I can't see a thing yet. Let's get a torch. Well, that's 60 ml and I can't see anything. Looking at the size of this boiler, it's bigger than a 1929. We could always do a dip through the top here where I can see something there. And I'm going to leave it there, which is 160 millilitres. Just about there. I've left about a 1/4 inch at the top there. Before we go any further, let's make sure the safety valve moves, and it does. Not too much travel, but it should be enough. The nice thing about this one is it is adjustable with a nut, and also you can take it apart, which makes it easier to get at least the one seal on. Right, we'll screw it back in, finger tight. Of course the important thing is when it's running, keep an eye on that level gauge. Next we oil. I'm using some thick Aster steam oil, Aster Hobby steam oil. I'm going to put some in to the lubricator reservoir there. It's only going to be a little bit, a few drops really. And now I'm going to rotate the flywheel just to draw some into the steam pipe. That's if the seal's any good in the piston. Bear in mind the potential of this engine is to be 107 years old. Yeah, it does seem to be doing something. Yeah. Suck some in anyway, I'll just top it up. It says thick steam oil, but it's not that thick, which is probably good for something like this, which is quite a weak engine. Right, there you can see the cylinder and the piston and the valve assembly. I suppose you call that a slide valve. Just pouring oil on. I've probably put way too much on, but that doesn't matter. For the good of the life of the engine, although it'll probably be a bit messy. Then I'm going to work it a bit, work it in and out, make sure it gets everywhere it can possibly get. Now obviously it's a vertical engine, so it's awkward to get stuff anywhere near the piston. So I'm just going to put some on the rod and work it in and out, and on the pivot there. On the slip eccentric here, which should allow it, if the timing's set right, to go forward and back just by turning the flywheel the other way. In short, oil all moving parts. Now you might want to use a lighter oil on the bits where it's just pivoting like the flywheel pivots, and it's, well, for want of a better word, bearing, but there's no real bearing. There we are, we've got the burner, the makeshift DIY one, half full. It's quite thick, this fuel, but it does run okay, it's not too much of a bind. So put some in, let it settle, then top up. Now the original burner is quite deep, it's probably this deep, or very nearly, all in one. Can't do it exact, so what I've done is borrowed a Meccano flanged wheel. That's going to go in first. A little bit fiddly. Then we're going to put the burner in with the fuel. Let's see what I can get it in. I've got a Meccano nut and bolt and washers through the bottom of the burner, which I hadn't tested to see if I could get it in, but I can. Yeah, put it in from the bottom. Bit awkward. Obviously I wouldn't do this with it lit, and the original burner would have a little handle on it. So maybe we'll do something a little bit more permanent should we ever get round to it. I don't see me using this an awful lot just because it's age, but I do like to run them. There you go. It may be a bit low still. Try and get it in around the back. Yep, try and get it so you can see what's going on. Yeah, I think that's good. Oh, it's got all but one. This fuel does seem to want to have to get up to temperature a bit before it will ignite properly. Don't think the back one's lit. That's it. There's no water leaks, which is good. The boiler's making a few slight gurgling noises. Whistle's starting to get up. Let's see if that seals when I switch it off. Maybe not. Oh, no, it was open still. Well, that's a good sign. It's showing that just about the burner's good enough. Maybe not brilliant, but good enough. Right, folks, she's ready. Just going to flick the flywheel. Well, that's better than expected. Lee, you shouldn't have sold her. I'm glad you did though. No speed control, of course. You could operate the whistle to reduce the pressure, but no valve control, no regulator I should say. Looks like there's a bit of leakage at the reservoir, and she's running that well. She's starting to dance. As you can see, no exhaust from the chimney. Well, the flame's almost out. Let's check the water level. And it's hardly dropped. It's dropped about 1/8 of an inch, if that. Being generous, that was about a 5-minute run with hot water, perhaps a bit less than that. But for this test now, I'm going to put a full amount of fuel in the burner, almost to the top. The downside of not having a regulator is you can't shut off steam and top up the oiler up here. That's a shame. It's a lot easier to light it when it's full with this non-bendy lighter. Still keeping an eye on the water level. It's quite easy to see actually with the naked eye once you get in line with it, because it's red when there's water in. Well, I have to say that flame is looking a fair bit better than before, so maybe a mix of using the fuel level from the Mark 1 burner and the Mark 2 type of burner. That's about 3.5 minutes. Let's see what she'll do. Oh, that's more pokey now. Yeah, full burner. Try the whistle. She's a nice runner. Still think we need a better burner because it doesn't seem to be able to maintain that fast rate for very long. But chugging along nicely. See how much it takes to stop her. Not much less than a more modern Mammoth. Bit of play in the flywheel axle. But I ain't going to be bothered about that. Gonna drop more oil on here and there. There we go. And it probably goes everywhere except where you want it. But you know, I ain't going to knock that with a makeshift burner. There's probably only 3/4 the poke of an original with some decent meths. But she runs nice. Doing a lot better now. So I think we'll stick with that. The 4-compartment DIY burner with a full amount of gel fuel. I have tried sterno in the past, but I thought it was pathetic. It was so lame. Running nicely. So it's like 3.5 minutes to get back up to operating pressure. Probably been running now for another 3.5 minutes. So I dare say it might run for 7 to 10 minutes perhaps. It's a decent sized boiler really. Talking of boilers, let's check the water level. There we are. It's about 1/3 from the top of the glass. Of course we didn't fill it right to the top, so we've used roughly, going on the glass, we've used about 3 to 4 millimeters worth, about the width of the screwdriver there from where we filled it up. So I dare say with hot water and the burner filled almost to the top with the 4-compartment burner, I reckon we could probably do 2 refills of the burner to one of the boiler. That of course is for more testing in the future. Right, that was a run of about 7-8 minutes. And that wasn't the full run, that's just what I noticed because I forgot to check the time. But I reckon 10 minutes is fairly easy with the full burner, 4-compartment one, with hot water. Probably only about 5 if it's from cold water. It's awkward to see the level in the sight glass now because looking at it there's a bit of oil in there and it's made it go a bit difficult to see. It's furred up a little bit. But the burner now is only very small indeed now, but we'll try again. Definitely likes to go that way. More than the other. Got to get a little bit more out of it, but keep it on, have another look at the water level. I'd say it's about 1/4 from the bottom now of the sight glass. So I think we'll call that a day. Hope you enjoyed that, folks. See you again next time.